Hey friends, welcome back to the YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Oleg and this is Mr. Bond. We talk about watches on this channel. In today's video, I have a review of Yema GMT watch. I had my eye on one of these watches for a long time and I finally was able to get one. Now this one is not a provided version for review, it's not a prototype version. I actually did purchase this watch, so it's mine. I did get a discount code, so I didn't pay the full price, but nevertheless, that's the relationship that I have with this company. They sent me one of the watches earlier for the review, and now I bought the second watch myself with a discount code. None of this is going to affect the review, I just want to be transparent so you know my relationship with Yema watches. Now, as far as this watch goes, there are a few things that I really like, and some things that I don't really like. So, let's get started with the review. Let's begin this review with the case dimensions. It has a diameter of 39mm from this point to this point, but that's excluding the crown and the crown guards. It's 48mm from one lug to another, so from this point to this point. It has a lug width of 19mm. However, the way this bracelet is designed, actually the widest points on the bracelet are about 21.5mm apart from this point to this point. And the bracelet does taper to about 16mm by the clasp. The watch is also 13.3mm thick, including the domed sapphire crystal. Here's what it looks like on my 7.5 inches or just under 20 centimeters wrist. I really love the size. 39mm is my go-to size. My Speedmaster Automatic, my Tudor Black Bay 58, and the Rolex Explorer are all 39mm, and I really love the fit of the 39mm case on my wrist. I think this one here wears like a true 39mm. It doesn't wear larger, it doesn't wear smaller. The proportions are great. It's not too thick, only 13.3mm, but a lot of that does come from a domed sapphire crystal. On the wrist it looks slimmer. It also fits pretty close to the wrist. There are no weird protrusions. The curvature of the case is great. The only word of caution with the fit of this watch is that it has this kind of protruding bracelet. The way the bracelet is designed, it's almost like an integrated bracelet. So be aware of that. If you have a wrist size, let's say of 6.25 inches, this might protrude a little bit too much. It might create an awkward angle around your wrist. Other than that, I really like the fit and the comfort of this watch. As it is almost customary by now, here's the watch next to Seiko SKX. SKX being 42mm and the Yema GMT being 39mm. You can see the difference in size and the wear. Yema does appear much smaller, and largely due to that tapering in of the lugs, it almost looks a bit more dressier than the SKX. The same story with the thickness. Even though the thickness of both watches I think is the same, Yema appears to be thinner. The case is made out of 316L stainless steel, so is the bracelet. All satin finish. Absolutely no polished parts on this watch. No beveling. No polished highlights, except for the finish on the crown. Other than that, the whole watch is in a satin or brushed finish. Some people might think that that's going to make the watch look not as expensive, and I tend to agree with that thought. Having those polished highlights just plays with the light really well and makes the watch appear to be more expensive. This timepiece has more of a tool watch aesthetic with all brushed finish. Overall, the brushing on the case is executed really well. It's what you would expect from watch in this price category. For a quick comparison, here's a watch next to another Yema watch, Yema Superman Heritage Maxi Dial, a diver watch. The Maxi Dial costs about half of what GMT costs, and you can really see the difference in finishes here, especially on the bracelet, but even on a case. They are similar, but in my opinion, the finishes on the GMT are superior. But again, as I mentioned, it doesn't have that expensive watch appearance because it doesn't have any polished edges. It looks more like a tool watch, like a tough watch that you would take with you on your travels or for sporting activities. Another noticeable difference between the two watches right away to me is the weight of each watch. So the Yema Maxi Dial is 150 grams, the GMT is 130 grams, and it feels quite a bit lighter. I think because the bracelet tapers versus this bracelet is just straight down 20 millimeters across versus a taper, and that makes the watch appear slimmer and lighter, and it is lighter, but it really feels a lot more lighter than just 20 grams. So those were my initial impressions after comparing the two watches. Better finishes and much more balanced weight of the watch. The movement powering this Yema GMT is a ETA 2893-2 automatic movement. It has 21 joules, beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, has 42 hours of power reserve, and overall it's a nice solid GMT movement. Easy to service and is very reliable. This one here is running very accurately. I'm getting within 4 seconds per day. With the GMT movement, of course, comes Gmt functionality. So we can see that fourth hand, that GMT hand, and we also have a Gmt Style Bezel. So when I demonstrate the Bezel Action, I'll actually demonstrate a few different things. Number one, a screw down crown at the 3 o'clock position with these crown guards. It is signed with the Yema logo. To operate the bezel, we actually have to unscrew the crown because this watch has a Yema Bezel Lock. This is an old technology that they have. It's kind of a signature for Yema watches. Kind of cool, and actually you have an option whether you want to buy a watch with this bezel lock or not. I went for the one with the bezel lock. I think it just adds a little bit of visual interest to the watch. Nevertheless, once you unscrew the crown, you are free to operate the bezel. This bezel is unidirectional. It's not a bidirectional bezel, meaning it only turns one way, like a diver watch. It doesn't turn in both directions, like what you would expect from a GMT watch. A bit of a negative for me personally. The clicks are confident, absolutely no backplay whatsoever. I quite like this bezel action. There is a lot of resistance, but there is also quite a bit of grip on this bezel, so you should have no problem operating it. It is a sapphire bezel insert. It's a loomed bezel. I'll demonstrate the loom in a few minutes here or so. There's also a two-toned sapphire bezel, which I quite like. We have the black and the gray. It's a really nice, subtle color difference, and something that I really appreciate about the look of this watch. To set the bezel lock in place, all we have to do is push the crown in and screw it into place. As we do that, the bezel lock will be activated, and now the bezel doesn't move. There you go, it's locked in. As you guessed it, screw down crown does help with water resistance. This watch here has 300 meters of water resistance. On top of the screw down crown, we also have a screw down case back with a nice engraving there. Something you may have noticed that it's a limited edition. My watch is number 98 out of 150. I believe they made 150 watches in each color variation, probably in each size variation, because this watch does come in 41mm as well as 39mm cases. I really love that. I can't express how much I appreciate companies that offer the same design of a watch in two different sizes, because people have different size wrists, so it makes sense to offer the same watch in two different sizes. Of course, I went for the 39mm one. If you've been following the channel for a while, you have no doubt that that's the version that I would go for. But the 41mm version has one advantage over this watch, and it's the lug width. The lug width on this watch, as I mentioned, is 19mm. The 41mm version has a 20mm lug width, which is a lot easier to get straps for, and in my opinion is just a better choice. I wish this one here had the 20mm lug width as opposed to 19mm lug width. That is quite a big negative for me personally. What isn't a negative and is actually a huge positive is this domed sapphire crystal with some AR coating. It gives you great distortion angles and gives this watch vintage feeling, which I really appreciate. I think with the flat crystal, this watch wouldn't be as cool as it is now. It has a pretty fantastic matte black dial. I think with the glossy dial, the watch wouldn't look as good. The overall aesthetic of this watch is very muted, and with the glossy dial, it would look out of place. This matte dial fits the aesthetic of the watch really well. We have applied marks for hours, open rail track for minutes, date at the 3 o'clock position with a nice date frame. The date wheel is not color matched to the dial. I think on this design it works pretty well. If it was color matched, maybe it would look a little bit better, maybe not. I like the arrow tip on the minutes hand and this shovel seconds hand. It's kind of iconic for Yema watches to have that little detail on their seconds hand. And of course we have this big pyramid or the big triangle for the GMT hand, and it points all the way out to the minute running track, which I do appreciate. In fact, all of the hands are perfect length. But it's not all positives with this dial. Just take a look at this loom. As you can see, the bezel is also loomed, but the loom on the bezel is quite poor. It is also not evenly applied. The biggest giveaway is that triangle by the 0 position. You can see there are some spots missing. If you're gonna do a loom bezel, you better apply a lot of different layers of loom. Otherwise, it's gonna look like this. Not the best look. The hour indices and the set of hands, however, do have a sufficient amount of loom. I think it's C1 Super Luminova. It lasts for an alright amount of time. This is a GMT watch, it's not really a diver, so you're not expecting too much loom. I think they just need to add a lot more loom to the bezel. This Yema GMT comes on a stainless steel bracelet. It's an H-link bracelet. As I mentioned earlier, the bracelet almost appears to be integrated just because of the way this first link is designed. As you can see, that's how it stands. It doesn't fold fully in. So if you have a smaller wrist, it might create a weird gap around your wrist. All brushed finish on this bracelet to match the finish on the case. Something that I really appreciate about this watch are these drilled lock holes. They make changing bracelets into NATO straps or leather straps much easier. A simple clasp here with the Yema logo, fold over safety. You open it as so. It's a friction-based clasp, Yema logo on the inside. Of course, it's an engineered clasp. Solid end links, solid links. However, it has push-style pins. On a positive, 4 micro adjustments, always good to see. And you also have the diver's extension. I personally don't use the diver extension that much or ever, but it's a nice detail. Alright, so that's the review of this Yema GMT. First of all, the price. $1,500 US dollars or 1,500 euros on their website. However, they do have a discount code right now. It takes this watch down to about 1,300 bucks. It's a 15% off discount code. And if you go on their website, at the very top, it just says, hey, sign up and you get 15% off from any watch, not just this watch specifically. For $1,300, this watch is actually pretty good. As I said, it doesn't appear to be too luxury. It doesn't appear like a watch that's trying to look more expensive than it actually is. This one here has that tool watch look, and I really appreciate that. I also really like the fact that this watch is not trying to be a Rolex GMT Master 2 homage. It's not trying to be a Tudor Black Bay GMT homage. It has its own design, it has its own pros, and it has its own cons. So as far as the pros go, number one, the design, excellent. I really love how this watch fits on the wrist. It just feels really comfortable and confident on your wrist. The bracelet is good. That H-link design is interesting. It has a diver's extension. Ceramic bezel is good. The domed sapphire crystal, and the fact that this watch is available in 2 different sizes. That's a killer option. Being able to choose between 41 and 39 millimeter watches. More companies should do that. I don't know why more companies don't. Well, I know why. Because it's very difficult to set up this infrastructure. But since Yema was able to, bravo, well done. But it's not all positives for this watch. There are some negatives. First of all, that loomed bezel. It's just kind of embarrassing. I mean, if you're gonna do a loomed bezel, you better loom it up. It better be bright and visible. This one here needs a lot more layers of loom for it to really stand out. Looking at the footage that I took of this loom, on camera, it doesn't really pick up that loomed bezel, but believe me, it's loomed, just not very strong loom. So definitely needs improvement in that department. And secondly, the price. Even with the discount code, $1,300, it's not a cheap watch. Yes, it has the ETA GMT movement, which is not cheap, and it comes from Yema, a company that has a lot of heritage. So some of the price is justifiable, but $1,300, there are so many different options for watches in this price category and below. So you really have to love this watch, love the look, and appreciate Yema's history to appreciate this watch fully. And I appreciate you watching this video until the end. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed this review, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss more videos like this. We release new videos every week, and leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this Yema GMT. Are you picking one up? Are you letting this one go? Leave all those thoughts below. I always enjoy reading your comments. By the way, today on my wrist, I'm wearing my Rolex Datejust. It's a vintage model. I did a full review of this watch. That video can be found on the YouTube channel. I will also leave it linked in the description below. Also in the description below, there are a couple of other links. The first link is a link to bondnativestraps.com. If you're looking for a great quality native strap and want to support this YouTube channel at the same time, buying one of these native straps is a great way to do so. The second link is a secret link. Have a look if you're curious. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're staying safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. We are joined by ambulance or a fire truck. Which one is it? Yeah, sounds like an ambulance. That's it, you ate it all.